Thank you, everybody, for coming. We've got, this is our fourth time doing this hybrid now, so I think we're getting some of the kinks worked out.
Sure.
Hopefully.
It should work.
For us in person, I brought back the name tags. But because online people can't always see us well, and we've had some new people.
Does that work?
I would like us all to go around and just say our names, and then we'll do the online people. So I'm Tracy, as you mostly know.
I'm Georgia. Hi, I'm Jane. 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 Hi, Jan Nelson. Aaron Snyder.
Leslie. Okay, Sharon, Todd, you're on screen right now for us. So tell us.
Yeah. Sure, Todd.
Here we are. Hello.
Jamie, can you unmute and say hello?
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Jamie.
Sue.
Hi.
Hi, Sue.
Hi, Sue.
Oh, hi, Sue.
Hi, Sue.
I know one.
Oh,
And then Linda. Linda, we don't have video from you. Are you able to unmute and say hi? If not, that's all right. We know you're there. Thanks for coming. That is everybody at this point. We'll watch for others to come in. And this guy is Charles Yu, excuse me. You see my segue there? Charles Yu is joining
Oh,
us
it's not
tonight.
Wu, it's you. You, why you?
Charles Yu, but the character is Willis Wu.
Oh, that must be where I did start reading. Yeah, I did start reading.
So he's written a couple of novels, and he's also a writer and editor for television, with series including HBO's Westworld. I've never watched that, maybe some have. His first book was called How to Live Safely in a Science Fictional Universe. And in case you think this was confusing, let me let Beth in here. Let me read you the premise of his first novel.
Okay.
Time travel technician Charles Yu, sound familiar?
Yes.
Looks through time for his father, the inventor of time travel. Charles Yu then finds a book called How to Live Safely in a Science Fictional Universe, of which he is the author.
Wow.
It's available if anyone wants to read it.
Maybe not.
It got really good reviews, wasn't it? One
Yes.
of the 10 notable books, was it
Yes.
Time or
Mhm.
New York Times?
And I think it won him one of those, what is it? So many writers under 30 to watch.
Yeah,
or something.
yeah.
So it's been received really well. Yeah.
Sounds intriguing.
Yeah. So, first thing that stands out about Interior Chinatown that we read for this is the format. What did everybody think of that?
It's a bit clever.
Confusing.
I
I
love
like that.
Huh?
I
absolutely
loved it.
I
didn't find it.
No, I found it confusing.
What is that?
I wished that he had decided if he was going to do an unusual format like that, to be very sequential, to have him be a kid and grow up and do it that way instead of the back and forth. Because when he talked about the big brother, I thought he had a brother. He didn't have a brother. He was an only child. And yet he talked about that to start with. Isn't that correct? Did you understand it that way?
Older brother.
Yeah.
Older brother. No, I
He
think
didn't have an older
I
brother.
knew that he did.
You know, but he talked about this older brother in the beginning a whole lot.
Yes. Consensus.
Well, I think that was
That's
one of
a
the generic
Yeah,
roles.
that's a
Yeah.
role.
Oh, it was, but I wish he had introduced a lot of this in the beginning so that I could put it in the right context to read it and understand it, because I didn't. Did you look at the blurb that there was an author that she sent our way that said how he felt about this book? He thought it was wildly funny. I didn't think it was funny at all. I thought it was tragic.
I was trying to read this book at the beginning, and then I thought, what the heck? And on the back or somewhere in there, it said it's supposed to be funny, but I never laughed.
I didn't either.
I think there were a few little funny
Yeah,
incidents.
sure.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't call the whole.
I
thing
didn't-
wild.
I
And really, that's how the guy.
I never
that's what he
barrel laughed.
said. No, I didn't laugh at it at all.
I was hoping
that they might make this into a movie so I could understand.
Oh, that would be
So I could
nice.
understand it. Because
Well,
I,
they've got the script, right?
yes, well, I kind of got the concept, but I was confused because sometimes it was actually the television show and then sometimes it was his life. And I was thinking, well, maybe it would have been more effective for me if he alternated between the script type of presentation and then a straight narrative.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
But he did in some
did.
ways. He
Yeah.
did. Some of that prose really comes out beyond the script. The script is, it's all, what I loved is it's all in the selectric typewriter
Yes,
font,
I like
which
that.
absolutely is a script, apparently is the default
Default,
script.
Type.
But
Yeah.
I think he did. The prose really picked up. It was beyond the script, but then he'd fall back into the script before he actually left the prose. And then they'd look at each other, the characters, and say, "Oh, you're back on script, okay?"
Right.
And then they go, "I think it was."
I
brilliant."
thought it made you think anyway.
It sure did. It sure did. I
What's
think
that, Beth?
yes, Beth
Oh,
made it in.
hi,
Hi, Georgia.
I am betting that there were a fair amount of people that did not like it, just by how many people are here. Because usually we have a full room. Yeah, I know Marcia didn't like it at all and refused to finish it. And I think that there are probably a few other people that are.
There were a couple people that said they couldn't finish it, so they weren't gonna come, and I told them they should come anyway.
Yeah, like me.
Yes.
I mean, I did not.
I think we have a couple online comments too here.
Yeah, I was embarrassed to slide it back into the. I said, "Oh, Tracy's gonna know it's me."
And then I saw the Piggly Wiggly. She's like, I'm sorry.
Do they have online people?
Yeah, I think everybody wants to say a little something. Let's give you guys a turn. Go ahead, Beth, you're on camera now.
Did you call on me?
Yes, go ahead, Beth.
Well, anyway, I'll just do this quickly. At first too, I thought, where is this going? But I liked it better as it went on. I mean, I could see the message of it.
I think Jamie had her hand up longest.
Yeah, I think the conceit of it was very clever, and writing it as a movie or a TV treatment, as a script kind of thing. The irony is that their life is scripted. It's stereotyped in that way that they are regarded by other people, in those stereotypical ways. It got a little old for me after a while. I listened to it as an audiobook, and so it got a little old. And I think that the pathos of it was lost in some way as a kind of, it made you feel distance from it as a comment on the situation, I felt, rather than having it be a story about these people and have you become involved in their lives in a really deep way. I mean, yes, I learned some things about this situation and the stereotypes that they dealt with, and some of the historical things toward the end of the book that we learned were really interesting. But again, it didn't grab me in terms of emotional feeling about this story. It wasn't going to be. I felt I walked away with some factual things rather than had an emotional experience with the characters. So yeah, I think the whole way of telling it just got a little old for me after a while.
I was glad it was
Okay.
short.
Yeah, it was kind of a quick read that way, yes. Sue?
I think they paid people to write the comments on the back. It was so highly overrated that I liked it, I got his point, but I thought it was so, it just didn't do it for me. I mean, I got the point, and I kind of like reading that style, but I think it was just totally overrated. And, it was easy to read that style, but I just thought it was way overrated. I was expecting something really, amazing, and it just didn't do it for me.
Cheryl, did I see your hand up too?
Yeah. So we're not there because we were just lazy to get there tonight. So it had nothing to do with the book. We're just the day was busy and we just couldn't get it together. So that's why we're not there. But yeah, I kept thinking, what is the point? What is the point? What is the point? And finally, when we got page, what, 233 or something, where it's at the trial, the older brother is there. Okay, so now we're getting to the point of this whole thing. But yeah, it took a little while to get there. So yeah. And
So what's the point?
Well, I thought,
Well, what do you think the point was? That's a good
I
question.
think he used, it's a set, wasn't it kind of satire on?
Yeah.
Yes, very much so. It's entirely a satire. I laughed a lot through this book. But then,
Ah,
but the interesting thing is growing up and going to Chinatown. So I lived in San Francisco. So going to Chinatown and seeing all these people, and I went to college with a lot of them and so on and so forth. You just kind of, and I worked with them for a lot. Some of the best people I've worked with are Chinese and good friends. But the point is they have a different culture, different lifestyle. And this book was spot on as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, a lot different. I know Cher kept saying, I don't know what's happening here. And I'm laughing at some of the things that he has. So it was just.
well, is it
different.
real? Is this part real or is this part not real?
No.
Is this part of the TV thing or is this part of the TV thing? I
Yeah.
couldn't tell.
Yeah.
So
And when Charles Yu gave that little thing, Tracy, the link that you sent, and he says, well, it's like writing a TV show. Well, it was. I mean, it was just, and if you've ever seen, I can't remember was it Chinglish? There's a play, there was a play at Steppenwolf, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years ago,
yeah.
Chinglish. And if you ever saw that, it was very similar to that sort of thing, if you ever see that sort of play. So
Well,
anyway,
I
enjoyed
took it that there was actually a play going on, an ongoing play downstairs at the China Palace.
Right.
And,
Right.
I wondered like time period this was, I was wondering like his story, what time is that placed in? I mean, how current is that type of thing? I mean, how long ago do you think that was based on?
It can be now.
Well, I think it's modern. I think it's very modern, as a matter of fact. There are plenty of guys there are plenty of people that I worked, that I went to college with that, what do they do for their job? They worked in their parents' Chinese restaurant, or they helped doing that sort of thing. So it's very similar to that.
but did they want to be kung fu guys?
No, they didn't want to be kung fu. No, they were going to be doctors and lawyers and so on and so forth. They were going to get out of that. But anyway.
Here's one of them to be, my daughter-in-law's parents had a dry cleaning. They're Korean and,
Right.
take over the dry cleaning.
They want them in the family business.
Yeah, I think, a big point for me out of it is that I got is you're never American, even if you're third generation.
Right.
Well, they're Asian, it's really hard for them to get into that incorporated feeling of, we're part of the group. They do have those cultural differences where parents have certain expectations of their children.
Right.
But I don't think it's a satire, but it's not unrealistic in its portrayal of how difficult it is to get yourself into positions and have respect,
Right.
for that position. I wanted to mention there's a new series on Netflix called The Chair. I don't know how many, okay. And my daughter-in-law is a professor in an English, in an education department, but pretty realistic. If you take away the comedy parts of it, so that idea of having to prove yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
I almost never feel the way I felt about this book, which is almost entirely neutral. I usually either really like a book or I just don't. And I think I saw a lot of what Jamie captured when she spoke, where I could appreciate that it was clever. It did take me a while to get my head around that we were in this cop show. I understood the roles right away. Generic Asian man and kung fu guy and all of that. Never having seen kung fu movies,
part of my reaction. I've really not watched cop shows, but to me, the most humorous parts of the book were the white female cop and the black male cop and their smoldering looks and their, so I could, that read so much like a script to me, look at each other, never to be consummated, but always smoldering. And that part I found rather amusing, but I just read it. I'm not sorry I read it. I National Book Award kind of eludes me. But I didn't dislike it. I just kind of thought, when was the last time I was,
Okay.
The basic metaphor was so interesting to me, but then it got old after a while. Being cast in a role is the way you are cast in other people's eyes in society, and the caste system. I mean, there were so many plays on the idea of caste, spelled C-A-S-T and C-A-S-T-E. That I thought I caught on to that like right away. And I went, oh, this is clever. This is going to be great. And then it wasn't so great, because it just like, did anybody else listen to the audiobook?
I did, in fact. I always have the audio and the book.
Yeah, the actor who did all the voices was pretty amazing. That he did all of the characters. I thought, he was really great. But even so, it just got to be wearing after a while. I just didn't have an investment in the characters that I wanted to have in order for it to really change my heart and mind about something. If I had not, they're preaching to the converted to me anyway, this book. But if I had been somebody that was like totally unaware of the predicament of, Chinese families from Taiwan, and struggling for a place between, the black and the white struggle, where do we fit in? If I was totally unaware of that, I would have wanted a story that really moved me more and got to me. And I thought this was too intellectual, too cerebral to really change anybody's heart and mind. Anyway, that's kind of the way it struck me.
He kind of lost me. And he did. He just advocated his family because he still wanted to be Kung Fu guy. So much for the wife, so much for the baby girl, so much for everything because he was going to be Kung Fu guy. And that's what made me think of it in more tragic terms.
Yeah, he did.
Even after he came around, tried to.
Well, he tried at the end, but I don't know how long that's going to take from how he behaves in general.
He didn't write a serious story, so that's probably why we weren't all kind of invested in feeling empathy for a lot of what was going on. But I think he did make a lot of points eventually, even though it wasn't written in a serious vein.
I just kept thinking I found this just a really interesting story, because I didn't see it just as a Chinese immigrant story. First of all, his parents were immigrants, but there were many Chinese before that. I see this as almost anybody's story in the US who's not white. And it made me realize over and over how difficult it must be for everybody. We've read stories, with people from, and now the Afghan people are coming, they're going to have the same trouble as this. People who are just those people who are extraordinarily, literally black from different places in Africa, they're not seen even as African American, they're just seen as some strange Somalian or Nigerian. This is what happens to people in this country over and over. And it made me think how difficult we make it for them, how we expect them to follow scripts. When they come off script, we don't have any idea what to do with them because they're supposed to be somehow. One of his skills is speaking with an English with an accent. I just found this in many ways a very sad story about who we are, how hard it is that we make it these people who are striving, but also how much we internalize that script, which is why I think he gave up his family. He was supposed to be Kung Fu guy, Kung Fu guy, and he was this close, and that's why he chose to keep pursuing it because he couldn't let go.
And he couldn't have a wife that was more successful than he was either.
Right. Well, but he came around. I think it was off script. She was off script. Somehow he didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that we all, and this is beyond the color of who we are, we follow scripts and we get into them. And sometimes we can't give them up. I'm supposed to be this sort of a person and you can't be otherwise because it's used. I just think it had a lot to say about what we internalize from our cultures, from our parents, from ourselves. And then we look at, and then it's, he had 8 stories of people in this single resident, single room only, this SRO, and it stacked up. I could smell those.
Oh, yeah.
All of that, I could hear it.
Well, I was wondering why this book was picked, and you just brought out exactly why.
Well, it's because I picked it.
Yeah.
I recommended it. No, I loved it. And then when it won the national award for fiction, I said to Tracy, see? See?
But you're right, because haven't we all been thinking those very things for like a long time now? And it's just like finally getting to the point where more and more and more people are seeing that situation and have to deal and work with it.
And what does it take to be an American?
Right.
This guy's never going to make it, but he might if he moves to the suburbs and has his wife who's doing sort of, which is kind of fun. He was in the script with the children and you could hear children laughing, invisible children. It's weird. I thought it was really good. And I just loved it, but it made me think over and over and over of the many journeys that occurred. And this is one of them, and it's laid right out in front of us. And it's a TV show. It's not even a movie, it's a TV show. Did you like it when the black guy was always clenching?
In a manly fashion.
Yeah, manly fashion. But I just thought of so many things, and I just thought it was so topical.
I think so.
And we have laws now about immigration and who can have health care and who's paying for what, and illegal people. And this to me is just spot on. These people have been here for hundreds of years. And they're still not
They don't have
American.
white faces.
And they're not American. What's it take?
I thought a few times of a comedian I used to watch who happened to be Asian, but he was born and grew up in Texas. So he had a complete Texas accent.
Oh my.
And that was one of the things he, kind of made fun of himself for, was that people couldn't accept him just as a Texan.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question to pose to everybody because I don't have an answer for this. But what is the significance of the title not having a colon in between Interior and Chinatown? Because I thought, as I was reading it, I thought, oh, maybe there's a colon and I misread it because that would be like a script, Interior Chinatown. But there isn't one. And when I first started reading it, I thought it was like something internalized, Interior Chinatown. But I don't have an answer. I just have a question.
That is a good question. Any thoughts, anyone?
What does Tom think? He probably have a good answer.
I thought it was because he was pointing out what Chinatown and what it's like to be an Asian person.
Yeah.
Isn't what it's like.
Behind the scenes. You have that double meaning of interior. Behind the scenes, maybe. Using the sort of script or TV kind of metaphor.
So, and there are these little pieces in the beginning of I don't know if people can see these little, I don't know who these people are. I assume, I don't know if they're real or I don't have any idea. Oh, this is page 31. And this is frequently, it's just something about acting and performing. And this one says, a performer may be taken in by his own act. If that isn't what this book is about, is convinced at the moment that the impression of reality which he fosters is the one and only reality. We have a sense in which the performer comes to be his own audience. He comes to be the performer and the observer. And he's observing and performing. He's in the prose part, he's observing, or the author is, and then he's performing. And those were just sort of little intros to each of the different acts. I really like this book. I just really like this book.
I think you reacted exactly like Charles. You wanted everybody to react. And I mean that in a positive way. I mean, that's what he was trying to achieve, right?
It grabbed
That
me.
reaction.
The style, the playing with the script, the long prose sections, talk about Dickens prose. I hate Dickens. You know, that's what he's known for, is a descriptive, these descriptive passages. You know, this guy he's got it all in there, in those descriptions of that, of the SRO and his interior feelings and
His family background. kind of
yeah, the
that.
stories of his mother and father's two different backgrounds, horrible stories. And they're still not good. But I just thought he brought you along in a way that's somewhat light and somewhat satirical, but still full of, I think, tragedy and sadness and hope and self-delusion.
She makes me want to read the book again.
I did feel as I was.
What
reading
I
it
was
that it
wondering is, because I had a hard time reading the book, it was just too much word and word and word and word. Does it help if you take and do it, how do you say that, with the video or
The audiobooks?
audiobooks? I've never read it. I've never done an audiobook.
You know, being that this was written mostly as a script and kind of a combination of styles, I was leery about having the audiobook, but I always have both. And the reader did such a good job that once you know what it is, you don't have a problem like with the format or following along.
I'll have to give it some thought over the winter.
Did anyone have troubles with the kind of blurring of reality and the TV show in the book?
Once in a while.
Or was that part of his point?
Right.
That's part of his point.
Cheryl's shaking her head. Yeah, that's what I found most.
Yeah, I think it was part of the point, like,
Yeah.
and whoever was talking about, like, you have a script, and so here's the script for the TV show, but this is also the script for your life. And so, yeah, it was confusing to me too, but I think it worked to describe what his life was like. You know, here it is in the script, but here it is in real life too. And it's too much the same, I guess, type of thing. So, yeah.
What about the crime and the trial? That's the point where I thought, wait a minute, where are we here? You know, the rest of it, it was pretty clear that it was interior Golden Palace, or as you say, the prose sections. But then we got to the stealing the car and the trial and the impassioned big brother. And I was like, wait. Now the reality and is a little blurred for me here. And I'm wondering what other people thought.
I felt like he used that he waited till the end. And at the end of the book, I felt like he said, okay, now I'm going to be in your face and tell you about what's happened to the, Chinese ethnic groups that come over here, what the history is and how horrible it is. And it is horrible. And he was just right there, here it is. So I thought he kind of just bumped into that wall and said, okay, now I'm going to give you the real dope here.
I agree. I think we could have gotten there as a reader without such a rigid, without a wall. I spent most of my time at the end of the book trying to figure out what was real. Did he actually steal his car? Were the police actually after him? And then it took me a long time to figure out, older brother came back and he's a lawyer. How could they not know he was in Harvard Law School? And but it was such a mixture of real and not real.
And the cops were there too.
And he's an only child. I know.
But he goes, that always confused me.
Unless the term older brother, like in some
Was a
cultures,
generalization
doesn't
of
mean
someone.
You're actually your biological brother.
Well, it was
but
one of
you're-
the roles.
Yeah,
It was a
right.
role.
Yeah,
It was.
yeah.
But it was confusing because they started out with that. So I was sure he had a brother and he's trying to measure up to be the brother and he couldn't measure up to it. But indeed, no, he was the only child.
Yes, and then how did it really end? So it seems to have ended with his going back to his wife and
That's not
child
hopeful.
in the
Like, he's
suburbs.
gonna be allowed
But on the other hand, he had to get through this trial for stealing a car. I don't know. I think it's interesting to totally and thoroughly confuse your reader.
Well, back to Dickens for you.
I know, whatever. No,
Okay, who liked the way he did the acknowledgements?
I did. It's like a script.
Yes, the cast, the
It was
director.
clever. The whole thing was clever, and I think that was meant to make it super smarty pants. There were 6 of them, super smarty pants.
That was awesome.
But anyway, I don't know. I just thought it was a book that made me think. It was a book that required my attention to get through it and try to figure out these things. I don't know how emotionally engaged I became, but I almost never ended reading anyway. I mean, this is like Old Yeller or something.
You're just crying.
I want to read.
Well, it's certainly unique. Yeah,
For sure.
Cheers.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
Well, one of the sections, I don't know where it was, but that talked about all the different laws that had been passed over a period of time in the United States and how they were all like anti-Chinese, to do this. And, you think like what they contributed to our country, and like, here are all these laws. And it was what, 1964 or something, before they were really, considered valuable citizens. It was just like, just those pages alone where they talked about the different laws was like really like a slap in the face, like, oh, well, yeah, no wonder. Yeah. So, maybe I could have read that in a history book, but maybe it was more important that it was like in this particular book. And it was more of a standout feature for me, I guess, to say that, yeah, we've really done a disservice to these people who have contributed so much to our country. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he refers to, I also looked at the link that Tracy sent. And of course, he really more talked about Asian than Chinese. And when he was interviewed, and I think even in the National Book Award, and something I thought of when I was reading it is how many people can discern among Chinese, Koreans, Japanese, yes.
Sure.
Well,
They all look alike.
It's
They
just
all
this
look
big,
alike.
they all look alike, right? I mean, that's kind of I don't know that people truly think that, but very few people can really make those distinctions. And so it's not even just about being Chinese. It's like you're lumped into this
Same thing, yeah.
you're Asian, so
Dead Asian guy.
that Asian,
Dead Asian.
doesn't matter if he's Japanese, Chinese, Korean.
His wife didn't get mired in it. She got on with life and did her thing, and he got mired in it.
Was she mixed race?
Yeah, she was mixed.
Yeah.
Had a different background.
That made maybe a little difference.
I think that's even harder, actually, in a mixed race. Oh, yeah, I think so. Well, I think it is, if you're in an Asian culture, if you see those mixed people in Asian cultures, they've always been less accepting of mixed kids, always.
Oh.
And here.
I don't remember what she was mixed
I don't either.
of.
Well, he was telling her she could play any of these different roles because she could look, kind of ask for
The
different
Brazilian,
cultures.
and she spoke Taiwanese.
Yeah.
And she was real pretty in that house.
Yep, pretty sure.
Yeah.
And a woman. But no, I found it engaging, I think, differently from, so many things that we read that tend to move from front to back, and a lot of plot things we know. And I just thought this was a different take on a very American experience. Very helpful.
So how much of Charles Yu, the author, do you think is in Willis Wu? Is there any autobiographical properties to this? Did you get any sense of that, maybe?
Right? He wouldn't write it if, he weren't experiencing this in his life. He's a young man, right? At least he looks like quite a young man. Yeah, so there he is, generic Asian man, right there in that picture. So, I mean, certainly it must be a very important topic to him for him to be
writing.
I didn't read anything about her. Is his family been here a long time? Is he
I didn't read about that.
first generation or 18th? I don't know.
I don't know.
We'll have to look.
We'll have to look.
Yeah.
But I would think that he would have experienced the business about generic Asian, or funny, you don't sound Chinese or Korean or whatever it is. Or, but
That
I
was
don't know
really
about-
striking.
yeah,
When the fact that he spoke without an accent and they told him on the
He better
show that
speak
he
with it.
had to use an accent. And then, of course, his grammar went by the wayside.
yeah.
So that he could sound the way they thought he should sound. That seemed really poignant to
You
me.
know what I kept thinking of when the more his grammar deteriorated? I hate to say this out loud, but there are sometimes when I catch my husband watching old Lone Ranger TV shows. Tonto. Tonto sounds exactly like that. And he's been speaking English for 10. You know, I mean, for how long has he been hanging out speaking English? And he still doesn't, he sounded just like this. He, doesn't use the pronouns correctly, doesn't use this and a, and I mean, all I can, if that was a TV show, it's how we expected Tonto to sound. And if he had sounded just like a pure Lone Ranger, we wouldn't have been happy with Tonto. And that's all I could think of. Was Tonto.
All right, interesting. He was born in Los Angeles, but he's now 45. But
he does look younger.
he graduated from University of California, Berkeley, majoring and receiving a bachelor's in art in molecular and cellular biology. A minor in creative writing. He obtained his Juris Doctor from Columbia Law School. So he's a lawyer. He worked as an associate at a company, as a corporate lawyer, and as a director of business affairs at another place. And he lived in Irvine, California. His brother is the actor and TV writer for Bob's Burgers. Kevin Hughes. So he probably collaborated with his brother.
Probably got some of the experience, yeah. Well,
It wasn't his father really a very brilliant person too, that
in
never.
the novel, yes.
Yeah, he had some really good staff on him, as I recall. But he couldn't do any of it here, though.
No, and then he had to drop out of school because something happened. His mother or something, yeah, something.
I think it was his mother, yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Anyway, his father was going along in school and then he had to drop out for some reason. Can't remember.
His father's at the end with his daughter, right? His father's at the very end of the book with his daughter.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're just, I don't know, I just thought there were many aspects to this book that just made me think, I think. And largely because I had to pay so much attention to read it.
Yeah, hard books.
Yeah, it wasn't a long or difficult book, but you did have to pay attention to what was going on and how it was written. Why did he want to be Kung Fu guy so much?
Right? Wasn't it the top role? Is that
Have
right?
you ever, I can comment on that. When my kids were growing up, they liked to see Jet Li movies and these things where they're Kung Fu people, they beat everybody up and they win at the end. And so maybe that's what his metaphor was here in terms of beating everybody up and winning in the end. So it was very interesting. So that didn't surprise me at all. And I think they talk at one point in the book about Jet Li, don't they? A little bit. They mention the name. Jet Li is this huge martial arts guy that's he's had I don't know, at least 10 movies. And basically he just runs through everybody. He shows the
There's also a Jet Li.
There is a Jet Li also.
Yeah.
I know you're saying Jerry.
So Kung Fu guy isn't too surprising, actually.
Yeah.
Although if he's a Berkeley graduate, like I'm a Berkeley graduate, I guess we kind of forget about some of that stuff, you know?
Are you a Kung Fu guy?
No, I don't know the first thing about that.
And of course, his dream comes true at the end of the trial. They kung fu their way out of the.
That's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
That's right. They take out
Dramatic.
everybody, just like in the movies.
And,
Two
and
guys.
that's always my wish. That's always my wish to kung fu out of difficult situations, but it never worked out.
Would you just like to be at a board meeting or a finance meeting and just?
Did better than Harry Potter's invisibility cloak.
Right, yeah. But then why does his mother say be anything but kung fu guy?
Be more,
Be more.
be more. I like that.
Right, me too.
Well, aspirations for him.
Well, I think she watched her husband, his life, and clearly so many around them, as well, just limiting.
Like the road.
And maybe be more than what people expect of you, be more than who you think you are. You know, just be more than that limitation. Be more than they've given you in the script.
There was an interesting, I like, there's a quote, they were talking about their daughter, Phoebe. And the mom says, the truth is she's a weirdo, just like you are. Just like you are. A glorious, perfectly weird weirdo, like all kids before they forget how to be exactly how weird they really are. Into whatever they're into, pure. Before knowing, before they learn from others how to act, before they learn they are Asian or black or brown or white, before they learn about all the things they are and about all the things they will never be.
That's fantastic.
They had those little gems in there before they hit us in the face. Because she meant be more than
I think.
Just aspiring to be kung fu guy.
There's another one I liked, and it was just about when he was talking about people in the SRO. Remember the emperor? The emperor was one of the ones that everybody looked up to the emperor, but not everybody knew the story that he was called the emperor because he had to he had a role on a TV ad for TV dinners, frozen oriental TV dinners, and he was dressed up like a general, and he had to present steamed buns in 3, you poke holes in the top, and his job was to serve it to blonde Americans in the TV thing. Well, but anyway, so what it says here and then he would then bow to them, middle Americans, while off screen in the shadows a gong sounded, and in parens, and further off screen, in the midst of history, you could hear the collective weeping of a civilization going back 5,000 years.
Yeah.
You know, this is collective weeping of 5,000-year-old civilization, and this is all that we allow these people to be, and too many of them buy into it. I just think I think they're pretty damning statements in here about what it is to be American.
Swaying.
I know.
This is a pretty impassioned.
I don't know. Did you read my
I did, I'm not sure.
I know there's that. I have to defend my choice.
You don't, actually.
I read an interview with Charles Yu, the author, and I might send this in the link for those that get the emails. But one of them, they asked him what was the most challenging thing about writing this book. And he said, no surprise, figuring out what reality was. The protagonist of the novel, Willis Wu, dreams of being more than a bit player, generic Asian man number 3, of actually becoming a star. In the course of the story, Willis tries to break out of his role, but in doing so, he calls into question for himself and for the reader what the rules of his reality are. Is he trapped? What would it take to break out of the role? Who made up these roles? And what happens if he gets to the top or jumps off the ladder completely? What is Chinatown? Why is he always on the interior of it? And what is on the outside of it?
Wow.
His wife jumped.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I thought of that with the ladder.
But yeah, very good.
Your daughter. Yeah.
It's interesting that he has a law degree.
So maybe he's, so if he has a law degree, maybe he's more like older brother.
Yeah.
Maybe he's,
Could be.
maybe he plays parts of him and older brother too.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta admit, whether you like this book or didn't like it, it certainly is a good one to discuss. There's lots of stuff here to talk about, the genre, the style, the, you know, did it work, did it not work for you? You know, the metaphors that were used, what did you learn about, you know, the Taiwanese experience in the United States? I mean, there's lots of meaty stuff there. So whoever suggested this, thank you. I'm glad I read it.
Well, as any book club situation, like it's like you read it, but then when other people talk about what they got out of it, this is where the essence of the book is, I think. So it's just so interesting, everybody's comments, everybody's views on it, that just, you know, the book, you read it and then you think, okay, well, but then you hear everybody else and think, oh, well, I never thought about it that way. And that really gets the old brain working. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I thought it was very beneficial to read it.
Right.
But I think that the technique and the style took away from the main point. If you didn't get into that kind of a dialogue of writing, I think you got more lost in the dialogue than you did in the point of the story. But I thought it was good. And I listened to the interview that Tracy sent with him. And so then I got a lot out of that interview about why he wrote it. And so that's how I benefited more from your discussion tonight and from that interview that Tracy sent. Thank you.
Yeah.
I do think one of the benefits of a book club is reading books that one would otherwise not have chosen. And I've had that reaction several times. I would never have picked The Geography of Bliss.
Right.
I wouldn't even be looking at a shelf that had The Geography of Bliss on it. And I really appreciated it. I really thought it was worthwhile. As I was reading this, even though I wasn't engrossed by it, I thought it's good that I'm reading this book, because I wouldn't normally necessarily pick a book with this kind of style. So I think there's a lot of value in that. I mean, I would typically select the same types of books over and over again. You know, so I think there's a huge value in that.
I do too. And Louise Penny writes something and I'm reading it. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
For good reason.
Yeah, that's right.
I felt that way about Station 11. Never in 100 years did I pick that up.
Would not get.
And I was like,
Yeah, I thought it was quite good.
excellent. And so much more going on than one.
Oh, I like.
I mean, it seems to be a pretty simple, straight.
So somebody mentioned they could see this being a movie. I mean, it's kind of obvious too, since it's in script form already, but Hulu has actually picked it up to develop a series based on the novel. Series. So I envision that maybe being not like ongoing series, but what's popular now is like a
6 episodes.
Netflix or Sony Prime, whatever.
So would you watch that? If that was a 6-8 episode kind of a thing, would everybody watch that?
Definitely watch it.
We don't stream, so yes, I would if I could. You would, but I get it from the library once the library bought it.
Well, yes.
Which will be campaigning for.
Which I'll be campaigning for sure. It would be interesting. I mean, there's so many. I mean, they have so some Asian guy would have to be the lead.
One would hope. I think one would hope. Yeah.
I'd like to.
Bit of irony to that.
One would hope they would all be Asian except for the 2 cops.
For black and white.
Black and white.
Yeah.
I actually thought that he wallowed in this a bit.
Ah.
Oh, woe is me. I'm a poor Asian person. My life is always this way. And I think that other people have been able to kick this somewhat, but he wallowed in it. And I think the reason I say that is when he couldn't turn down the one job and go with his wife and improve his life, that made me think, well, then it's pretty hard to feel sorry for you if you can't make the right decision.
Because he was a grown up.
Yes.
But not quite. Yeah, well, I agree.
45. Yeah.
Yep, that was a hard thing. It emphasized for me how hard it is to give up this interior script we have of who we are, who we're supposed to be, and how easy it is to kid ourselves that we're almost there. Almost. I don't know if it's like people who invest too much money and shouldn't, or, I mean, it's the next, I'm gonna win the jackpot the next time, I'm gonna keep investing in this role I'm in until it pays off, and it never quite does. I don't know. I felt really bad for him, and I did not expect him to change his mind. I expected that it was hard to tell if he changed his mind because the end is so confusing.
Yes, it is.
It's just so confusing.
It is.
And the daughter with the TV show, like that was.
I know, and yes, it was, yeah, it was, I don't know. It's an odd book. Let's say it's an odd book.
So is this something you would recommend to people?
No.
Yes. I mean, obviously Jay would, because she did.
I did, but to me, I don't like to recommend something that is a question to other people. I like it to be a sure thing. And this is no sure thing, for sure.
I thought the discussion might be good. But
And it is.
Did we read the unit in here?
Yes.
Oh my God, now that was a weird book.
That was a weird book.
That was a
I'm trying
weird
to
book.
remember.
That must have been.
Oh, it's where they reached the age of 60, it was Scandinavian. And they have to go and be harvested.
Oh, that was very interesting.
Yeah, and that
Very
was more of a
interesting.
straightforward story, but it
Yes.
was weird. Good
Yes.
discussion,
Yes.
but I'm not sure everybody liked the book because it's kind of makes you a little squeamish.
Right,
I
right.
thought that was
It had
quite
some
good,
interesting
actually.
I thought that was
topics.
an excellent book. That's
Lots
what
of good thoughts.
I thought
I
it was
think,
great.
I think Beth has a comment she's trying to get in. Go ahead, Beth.
I did tell another group about it. I participate with Moravian Church in one, ours, and also one down at West Side in Green Bay. And we've done Be the Bridge and about racism. And now we just did The Warmth of Other Suns about the migration, the great migration of Black people coming north. Like 1915 to 1970 that covered. It was interesting. So anyway, I did tell them about interior Chinatown because it's sort of the same thing of prejudice and stereotype. I told them it was different, a little strange. So anyway, they're going to look into it.
Good, very
Good for you,
good.
Beth.
That would be
Yeah.
great, Beth.
Well, there was one library I noticed this year that did it for their one book everyone reads, which would be their
Wow.
equivalent to our book.
Wow.
The Wilmette Public Library in Illinois.
Yeah.
And I did copy their recommendations. They have a recommended reading list. So if you wanted to read further, there's some fiction and nonfiction lists. So I will share this with everyone on email. And if anyone wants a paper copy, I can certainly give that to you as well.
That's interesting. It would be interesting to know what their readers thought about the book, and as well as types of discussion they might have had.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Mhm.
An interesting choice for a large, like,
Yes.
countywide.
I
readers.
can't imagine that, actually.
Huge.
So,
not
so
bad.
Tracy, did anybody, did you find out anything, if anybody in California read this book?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah,
No.
because, I mean, it would be very interesting to see what the take is there, especially since COVID, and how
Right.
that went over. So
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
interesting.
I was surprised a couple times he said Oriental because, some people say that's derogatory. Oriental is Oriental rugs, not people. And, but he did have that a few times in the book.
Well, I think he was poking fun at that, or it was meant to play up the fact that it's like saying generic Asian man, it's just doesn't mean anything anymore.
And of course, we have the current problem with Asians being beaten up on the street and so forth. Because of the virus.
Mhm.
So it's just, it's partly it's hard to blend.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going home.
You are.
All right. Any last comments that anyone didn't feel they got in tonight? Any more thoughts on interior Chinatown?
Uh,
Anyone want to read How to Safely Live in a Science Fictional Universe?
You know,
The book next month is American Dirt. Is that what it's called?
American Dirt, yes, October, it'll be October already, that sounds weird. October 6th, American Dirt. I have a couple copies here. There's currently no hold, so if anybody wants to request one, they will come quickly.
It'll take me forever to read it.
Mhm.
I just remember the controversy around it.
What is, can you give us a little couple sentences about it, just so I know what I'm getting into?
Can anyone who's read it summarize American Dirt?
I've read it.
Beth can. Beth
Go
can.
ahead, Beth.
Well, I don't want to give too much of it away, but you can really see how dangerous it is to be a migrant.
Right.
It's
Okay.
about a mother and a son escaping Acapulco, that's in a bad situation there, about drug lords and fights. And then there's one drug lord that becomes powerful. So anyway, it's a good story, and it is eye-opening about how dangerous it is to try and come to the United States for various reasons, but to survive, get away from, death or, very bad situations, just like other migrants and refugees, they left for a better life. But anyway, it's good.
Good, thank you, Beth.
That's what it's about.
All right, so hope to see you all for that discussion,
Yeah.
October 6th.
Great, thank
whether
you,
in
Tracy.
person or virtual.
You're
And
such a
yeah, thank
great
you all for
leader
coming.
of this group. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Tracy.
Thank you. Thank you for coming, everybody.
I second him.
Yeah.
Such a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love being able to zoom in. I had knee surgery and I would never have been able to participate last month or this
Good.
month, otherwise. And now as fall, winter's coming, now having to drive down to Bailey's Harbor all the way from Gills Rock at night is really blessing. So thank you very much for doing these hybrid meetings. I really enjoy this group.
Good. I'm glad.
Thank
glad to hear
you.
it. Thank you.
Tracy.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.